What's up, guys? Mason the Rock Henderson here, and this is actually the perfect game to just exemplify our season in one match. You've got the first half where things are easy, so everybody's, playing well. We're smooth, no problem. Brentford aren't at their best, so we have plenty of time to play. It's no problem. We got players that have quality. We knock it around. Boom, goal. Easy. It's easy for us. Second half, Brentford come out to play, and all of a sudden now we look awful. Isn't that surprising? Isn't it surprising that when the other team actually works hard, actually outworks us, suddenly we look terrible? Isn't that interesting? It's almost like I've been saying this for most of the season. That's if teams outwork us, they'll beat us. And for a majority of that half, Brentford outworked us. After they got their second goal, they sat off. And then now all of a sudden we're on the front foot again because we have time to play. It's easy for us to play. We're knocking it around. We're creating chances. I mean, that second half, again, it was terrible until Brentford got the second goal. Because we've got players that when it's easy, they look great. When it's difficult, they cannot cope with it. They cannot get themselves to give that extra little bit of effort. Caicedo can't find it in himself to beat Reguilon to a ball that is easily 2 steps closer to him than it is to... He can't find it in himself to just be ready to go win the ball. He can't find it in himself to be ready whenever the ball gets popped up in the air and he is the closest Chelsea player to it. He can't find it in himself to stop standing in that same spot, for the past 5 seconds that he's been watching the whole play develop, to go maybe put in a challenge so I think it was Wissa can't just have a free bicycle kick in the box. He can't find it in himself to push that little bit. No. It's whenever things are easy. He's only got Ivan Toney to mark because they're only sending him forward. That's when it's easy for him. He doesn't have to track multiple players. He doesn't have to work himself hard. He's just got to make sure, okay, Ivan Toney's on the ball. Well, I just got to go back and help out the other 2 defenders that are on him. And now it's easy for me to win the ball off of them because I don't have to work hard for it. We got so many players like that, and I already went on my long rant about it against Leeds, but today once again showed. First half, easy match for us. So we've got players that are playing well. They look confident. They're knocking the ball around. We're all over Brentford, no problem, because Brentford are not in the match. As soon as Brentford are in the match, as soon as they start putting pressure on us, as soon as it's difficult for us, we got players that are standing and watching. We got players that are, oh God, I don't know what I'm going to do. Well, I guess I'm going to try to go for this header, but not really. I'm kind of going to pretend like I'm going for this header, but in the end, I'm just going to kind of duck out of it because I don't really want to go for this header. I don't really want to put myself in that position. I'm going to start with Pochettino because I will say today was not really a moment of helping or hurting him. It was really just kind of a up and down match. For one, I will say the fact that he decided to switch up the formation a little bit, go with the back 3. I'm glad he's willing to experiment a little bit more because the 4-2-3-1 has clearly not been working for us. We had that one match against Villa where it looked great, and then since then, great performance against Man City, but the Palace match was ugly. The Liverpool match was good until it was bad, and then obviously the Leeds match was awful. So willing to try something a little bit different. We're on the road. We're against a Brentford side that are looking for a response after their loss against West Ham. So I'm glad he's willing to experiment a little bit and try to find a different, option, because we're conceding a little too easily at the moment. So he tries this out. I'm willing to give him that. His subs, I realize he's hindered, but at the same time, I feel like he should have learned something from the Liverpool match. I feel like he should have looked at that match and gone, you know what? It seems like Liverpool's kids are willing to put forth more efforts than these, $1 million contract per year players that we have out there. Maybe it's because these kids have more passion for the club. They have more integrity. They have more about them that they want to work for their manager and for the team they're playing for. As compared to guys who are just sitting here on lumps of cash, maybe they're more so just here to collect a paycheck and not really willing to push themselves. You would think he would learn that from that final. But it seems like he still hasn't, because today, who does he bring on? Mudryk, Sterling. I honestly am shocked he didn't bring on Kukurea and Madueke. those are not the players that you turn to get that extra little bit of effort. That's not who you turn to. Mudryk, maybe. He does have a lot to prove. I feel like there are times when I watch him and it feels like you can see that he feels that pressure, but Sterling, absolutely not. He's not the type of player you turn to whenever you need somebody to push themselves. We've seen it throughout this season. When things get tough, when it's difficult for him to play, it's just a lot of standing on the ball. It's a lot of trying to do stuff on it, but that's not really like driving at defenders, not really causing the problems. He just gets on it, does a little step over, and then they poke it off of him, and he doesn't push himself. So why not turn to the kids? Why not give these youth players, these academy prospects, give them a chance? Gilchrist, why are we not seeing more of him? I realize Gusto's in a fine run of form, so you don't want to replace him. And Chilwell is obviously, he's got to get himself back into the team. He's got to get himself back into his run of form. But why are we not seeing him come on as an option? Why are we not seeing, whenever you're looking for, we need just that little bit more going forward. All right, well, let's push Gusto down the field because he's looking good going forward today, but not so much defensively. Why not push Gusto down the field and have Gilchrist sit as the right back? Because Gilchrist, he's going to put in a header. He's going to push himself to make sure that we don't just give up, easy headers, ducking out of it. So why not give him a chance? Some of these other kids that are looking to break into the team, see what they can do. Give them an opportunity to prove themselves. Stop turning to these overpaid, worthless players that are just here to collect a paycheck, and when things get rough, they're not going to give you anything. So for Pochettino, that's where my frustration is with him right now. It's the fact that he's not willing to give these young players a chance. I realize some of that may be, well, we don't want to just pay these players big contracts for them to just sit around and do nothing. However, at some point, you have to realize we're not getting anything from them. So either they have to have something to fight for, or we just need to move them on. Because I'm sick of watching these players that have no real reason to fight for their place in the team. Caicedo, he's never losing his spot. He's every single game. It doesn't matter how bad he plays, he's back in the team. Can we give him a reason to sweat a little bit? Can we give him a reason to feel like he needs to put forth a performance and needs to actually work himself? Because I'm sick of watching him walk around the field. I'm sick of watching him walk and stand and watch the play happen when he could be putting in a foot trying to actually win the ball back for us. Both of those goals, he was involved. Well, I guess the second one he wasn't involved, but that's how he was involved. He was just watching when he could have been the one that would be putting Wissa off of his shot. Not just watching, that's a nice kick right there. You did a good job. Anything. So that's my Pochettino rant. Individuals, it kind of goes up and down throughout the field. I mean, Petrovic, nothing really mistake-wise today. So still better than Sanchez, because Sanchez makes mistakes. He doesn't, but again, he's still not giving us that extra little bit that you get from those world-class keepers, that extra moment whenever he makes a save that you would never expect him to make. The bicycle kick. It's a great shot. It's placed in the corner. However, what's Petrovic doing? He's doing a Kepa, playing on his heels and then falling backwards. He's not trying to step over to get to it. He's not reading it and trying to prep himself so that when the kick happens, he sees, all right, it's going this way, let me try to get over there quickly. It's just, and I'm stuck. It's not good enough. So we basically have another Kepa at the club. Just, we didn't pay as much for him, thankfully. In defense, the back three, the commentators did talk about it, and I saw it too. These three should have been brought in because of their height, because we're trying to stop crosses. We're trying to keep them from being dangerous on those crosses. However, all three of them were awful today in the air. One of them, Disasi, I will grant, it's not his work ethic. I think he just doesn't read the game well at times. He does have his moments. The goal, obviously, he did well to read that. There were a couple headers he did well to read. But there are moments whenever that ball comes in, and I just think he loses track of the ball. I think he doesn't judge the flight of the ball well, and he just, in those moments, he doesn't know what to do. So it's kind of hard because those moments when he does well, thinking, okay, good job, Disasi. And the moments when he doesn't do well, he looks like a complete idiot. And it gets frustrating to watch when those moments happen. So, my opinion, it shows he's got some quality to him. I just think there are too many gaps in his game to really trust him as a starting center back. But again, I don't think he was supposed to be. I think he was supposed to be backup for what was supposed to be Fofana, Silva, maybe Colwill as your back, center backs. But the fact that obviously Fofana's been out injured, Colwill had to move to the left because Chilwell was injured, it kind of became a thing where now he has been starting for most of this season. And he's had his games where he's played well, but he's also had his games where you could see this is why he shouldn't be starting for us if we want to be challenging for a title, if we want to be challenging for Europe. Chalobah, his story for me has been it's been really interesting to watch, and not interesting in a good way. I'll say it. The best way I can describe it is when he was that young prospect coming into the team and getting his chance. In those moments, he looked phenomenal. He did have his gaps. He did have his moments where he looked a little off the pace, but overall, he worked hard. He looked like he read the game pretty well. He had good strength and speed to him. Ever since that first season, though, I think it was Tuchel gave him the chance, or maybe it was Lampard. I actually don't remember now which one gave him the chance. But whoever it was, gave him a chance in a few games. He did well. They gave him some more starting. But then there came a moment or two when he started to falter, dropped out of the team, and then struggled to play for the rest of the season. And I think we were seeing like Christensen play over him, which I didn't agree with at the time. But ever since that moment, it feels like anytime I've seen him, he's either looking pretty good, looking promising, or he has moments where he feels like he's just not anywhere near the first team. And I think that inconsistency of playing time hasn't helped him. On top of that, now he dealt with a pretty lengthy injury for this season, so hasn't played much now. And now I'm looking at him thinking, I just don't think he's going to have that quality. I don't think he's going to have the quality to really be a starter for us going forward. And it's a shame, because again, when he first started, I thought he had a lot of quality. I was excited to see more of him. But we've reached a point now where he should be consistently putting in good performances, consistently locking things down in the back, and he's just not. And today was another good example of, we saw against Leeds, the second goal, completely lost track of his runner, easy header, just dropping over his head. Today, once again, moments where Cross comes in, he's got the height, he's got the strength, he should easily be winning these headers, and he's nowhere near him. His reading of crosses is terrible. So, unfortunately, I just don't think he had a couple of good moments. I'm not going to say he played terribly today, but overall, I think he just wasn't good enough today, and I think it showed quite a few times. Colwill, for me, I just don't know what's going on with him. When he first started the season, I was excited. He seemed like he was really going to step in, maybe finally take a chance and be a starter for us. But as the season's worn on, he's just gotten worse and worse and worse. And I honestly think it comes down to his work ethic. I look at James as well. I kind of feel the same way about both of them. They both, when they first started, when they had something to prove, it felt like they were busting it. Every single game, 100%. They knew they had to fight for their position. Colwill had to beat out Chilwell and Cucurella, which admittedly is not as hard to beat out. But he wasn't getting into the center backs. He had to fight for that left back position. James, similarly, had to fight for that right back position over Azpilicueta. When they won it, for both of them, it felt like, okay, let's see what they can do. Had a couple of good games and then slowly started to drop off. And I don't know if this is exactly what's going on in their heads, but I think it comes down to all right, I've got it. All right. Now I don't have to push myself anymore because I am the starter. All right. And it's almost like because that is their mindset, they stop pushing themselves. They stop working as hard. And for James, it seemed like he did feel that way, but then he kind of dropped off a little bit. Azpilicueta took it over. He also dealt with the injury. So it kind of felt like when he returned, he did have something to prove. I'm kind of hoping the same thing happens here since Gusto is starting to step up a little bit. For Colwill, I don't think he's really had that competition. Chilwell's been out for most of the season. Kukurea is not good enough. I just don't think he's had that player that's pushing him because nobody is really in such good form that he has to play phenomenally to keep his position. So it just seems like he's not really pushing himself. And today, I mean, once again, how many times is he going to get beat in the air? And not because he's not tracking his runner, not because he's not, in the right position. It's because he doesn't want to put in a challenge. It's shocking to me the amount of times a cross comes in and a player of Colwell's stature and capability is standing there going, oh God, I guess I'll jump with you, but I'm not really going to jump. I'm not really going to throw myself into this and beat you to this header. John Terry-esque. I'm not seeing that from him. And we saw multiple times when we played Man City that he did not want to go up in a challenge with Haaland. He's there. He's in a close position, but he's not really, let me get up and challenge you. Like, I just don't see that desire to really put in a challenge on a striker and win the ball out of the air. So either he's not a center back, which I thought that's why maybe he dropped off at left back because he's supposed to be a center back, but either he's not a center back, which means I don't know what his position is supposed to be, or he's just not pushing himself. He is not willing to push that extra little bit because he doesn't feel the need to. He doesn't feel threatened if he doesn't go up for that header and they score. That's okay. Who are they going to put in here instead of me? Chalobah? Yeah, he's playing just as badly as I am. Silva? He's injured. Fofana? He's injured. There's no way they're going to replace me at center back, right? I'm not saying that that's what's going through his mind. When I watch him, that's what I imagine is going through his mind because he is just so unwilling to push himself. And it's frustrating to watch. So anyways, that's our three center backs. Obviously, the three that I wanted to focus on the most because we've given up 4 goals in the last, we've not kept a clean sheet in who knows how long, but 4 goals in the last 2 matches, one against a championship side. I mean, that's not good enough. So, moving on to the wing backs today. Gusto, good going forward. Defensively, it's kind of funny because actually it was a battle between 2 fullbacks who, in my opinion, are very similar. One of the reasons I wasn't excited that we were going after Reguilon back, I think the summer that we ended up signing Chilwell instead, I watched him play and looked fine going forward, but defensively, I watched him, I think it was in the Europa League final when they played against Man U at, was that Valencia or Sevilla? I don't remember where he was now. But I remember watching that game and thinking, all right, so here's the guy that Chelsea are looking at for left back. Because at the time, all we had was Alonso and Emerson, and we needed something else. Because Alonso was fading, Emerson just wasn't quite good enough, which is ironic now because he's actually done pretty well for West Ham. But I remember watching Reguilon, though, and thinking, I feel like Emerson's better. I think they're both quality going forward, but defensively they both have lacking qualities. And I think Emerson just looks a little bit better defensively than he does. And so today, very good example of they both, Gusto and Reguilon, both look good going forward, but defensively, God, they struggled. Gusto was constantly terrorizing Reguilon, and whenever Reguilon got down the field, he was always looking dangerous because Gusto wasn't doing his job, which is weird to me because I thought Gusto looked phenomenal defensively for the past few matches, honestly. I thought he's done really well. Today, though, he struggled. He looked like he did not have the capabilities of keeping up. He didn't know what to do. Maybe it's because he was playing wingback and so he wasn't quite as used to that position. But, there were several moments, one moment in particular, where I think it's the one that led to the second goal. He's tucked in, basically almost standing on Disasi's foot. While Reguilon is clearly wide open, ready to put in a dangerous cross. And it's not until the pass goes out there that he goes to close it down. But at that point, Reguilon still has plenty of space to send in a dangerous cross. You've got to be closing down that pass. You've got to be at least closer to that. Yes, I know he's going in toward goal, but that's where Disasi is there, and admittedly Caicedo should be there. So the fact that he wasn't at all paying attention to what was going on outside of him, I feel like he just lost his focus today. He lost his ability to read the game and put in a good defensive challenge. So, but again, going forward, he looked fine. I think the cross that led to Jackson's header, very typical of what he's been doing recently. He's been putting in a lot of dangerous crosses, so Glad to at least see he's doing that consistently. Left side, Chilwell, kind of a nothing game from him, if I'm being honest. I don't really remember anything he did defensively. I definitely don't remember anything he did attacking-wise. I remember he had like 2 shots from outside the box. One was blocked and one was over. So, yeah, just in my opinion, he's still... He's kind of been up and down since returning from injury, which kind of is expected, but we need him to be hitting more highs because he is one of our more dangerous players whenever he's playing at his best. Right now, he's definitely not. So we need more from him. In the middle, Fernandez thought did okay. You know, I think he is starting to feel that, I guess, the wear of all of these games coming so quickly. Thankfully, we do have a bit of a break till our next one. But you could tell, like, today he was just not quite as fast. He wasn't quite up to pace. He knocked it around okay in the first half, but definitely in the second half he was very slow. You know, very slow to move the ball, very easily closed down, and wasn't too much of a surprise. Even though I thought Caicedo, based on performance, should be the one to go off, I understood why he was the first one to be subbed off based on the energy level he was showing. Caicedo, like I said, I mean... He's a player for when we're in good form. When we're playing well. It's funny because I remember saying the same thing about Jorginho, but again, in my mind, Jorginho, the reason he failed at Chelsea is because he wasn't physically capable of keeping up with the Premier League. And that's why he's not really featured much for Arsenal. With Caicedo, I think he's physically capable. I think he's quick enough. I think he's strong enough. We saw some of that when he was playing at Brighton. His work rate is awful now. And that's... I remember one of the guys talking about, you know, he goes to ground a lot more now than he did at Brighton. And I'm like, well, it's because he's not really working as hard. When he was at Brighton, he was working hard, so he put himself in a position where he didn't need to go to ground. Nowadays, he's moving slower. He's not working as hard. He's not putting himself in the right positions. So now he has to lunge in to make a challenge because he's too lazy these days. He's too lazy to actually work hard and win the ball back cleanly and fairly. Now it's like, oh crap, I lost him. Crap, he's past me. Let me just stick a leg out and hope for the best. Like, that's lazy defending. So it's just, I'm done with him. I am done with Caicedo. I'm sick of him. I'm sick of watching him. I'm sick of watching him be lazy. I'm sick of watching the lackadaisical challenges. I'm sick of watching just all of the standing and walking that he does. It's ridiculous. For as much as we paid for him, it is ridiculous how little he's... Honestly, I'm kind of glad he didn't go to Liverpool because if he had, I'm sure Klopp would have turned him into a world beater. Because Klopp would have gotten the best performances out of him. Klopp would have gotten him to really push himself. Pochettino, the billions of dollars behind Chelsea, clearly that's just brought him here to go, all right, time to sit back and sip my Mai Tai. Yeah. Life is easy. Another goal goes in, who cares? Not my problem. Like, that's honestly what I feel every single time I watch him. So I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe we'll get in a new manager that will bring the best out of him. Maybe at some point they'll talk about lowering his wages. I don't know. At some point, though, somebody's got to do something because I can't watch another, 6 years that we signed him? I can't watch another 6 years of him just lazily walking through our midfield and letting teams have so many opportunities against us. The 2 up top, I guess Gallagher was kind of the attacking mid. I thought he did pretty well today. I thought between Gusto's attack and Gallagher's work rate, I think those were our 2 best players today. But there were several moments where we needed him to just be that busybody in the midfield, and he was in the first half. Second half, I feel like when Brentford started to get a little bit more possession, he struggled to keep as much pressure on them because they were moving the ball a lot quicker, and he didn't really have any help outside of that. So he didn't look quite as good, but I don't think that was down to his work rate. I think he was still working just as hard. I think it just Brentford started to move the ball a lot better, started to have a lot more options, started to move it around Caicedo and Fernandez a lot better, so Gallagher was not as effective with his pressing. Palmer, I thought, actually not great today. I mean, he's not looked phenomenal recently anyway. He's definitely hit his rut of form again, and he's had these moments. You know, he'll have a few games where he looks easily best player at our team, easily most talented, so much quality with him. And then he'll just have a few games where one-on-one with a keeper, and he puts it right at the keeper. You know, easy chance, falls to his feet. and he misses the goal. I mean, honestly, it should have been 2-1. Was it 2? Yeah, should have been 2-1 before Brentford went and scored, because I mean, great ball into the midfield from Gusto after a nice counterattack after we had ridden some of the storm from Brentford early on. This was the moment to be like, all right, we're starting to get in the ascendancy. Let's go ahead and put in a goal and then ride this all the way to the end and maybe put in a couple more. Cross to him. All he's got to do is just put it on target. I mean, he has got almost nothing in front of him. He's got just the keeper to beat, and he puts it wide. That's just the form he's in right now. So it's one of those problems that whenever your best, most creative player is not functioning, whenever he's not on form, whenever he's missing these chances, we're going to struggle. Because we can't just rely on one player. And that's been our problem for a while, is that whenever we have to rely on one player to score the goals and they're not scoring, we tend to struggle. You know, back in the day, we had multiple players that could affect the game positively. You had players all around the pitch, even in defense, that could win the ball on a corner and score for us. Nowadays, I mean, yeah, Disasi scored today. It's his third goal for the season? How many of our other defenders scored? How many of our midfield scored? I think Fernandez has, 2 or 3 now? I think he did score a couple against one of the lower sides in the FA Cup to boost his numbers. Caicedo, though, has not done hardly anything going forward. So, yeah, we don't have enough coming from everywhere else, so Palmer is kind of our main guy to get the job done right now. And today, he wasn't doing it, so today we struggled to score. We had chances. We had, again, similar to the Carabao Cup, we had chances to put the game away, and we didn't, and Palmer, unfortunately, was at the forefront of quite a few of those chances. Jackson, great header. Everything else about his game is just so frustrating. I still will grant he works hard, he makes good runs, but God, he is just, on the ball, he's not good. And that's where I think we need to realize we got to stop passing it to him. Like, he either needs to be passing it to somebody to score, or he needs to just be heading it in, because those are the two things he tends to do pretty well. You know, we've had a couple of crosses that he's done well to knot it in. He's had a couple of moments where he sent Sterling in behind. You know, the one he had today that Sterling should have finished. He's done that pretty well too. But his overall play is just really frustrating, because on the ball, more often than not, he tends to give it away under no real pressure. So, I feel bad for him, because, again, I know it's not his work ethic. It's more the quality that he lacks. But still, at some point, you got to realize, you got to be self-aware about that quality and go, maybe I shouldn't try to do 3 step-overs when I'm running at a defender, because I don't have that type of quality. Maybe I should pick my head up, find a pass, make it a simple goal. As far as the 2 subs that came on, I mean, Mudryk came on, and, I mean, don't really remember much from him. I think the main thing he did was pass it to Palmer on the corner, where Palmer sets up Disasi's equalizer. Outside of that, not really much there. Sterling, I mean, had a couple of good runs into the box, but nothing when it came to the finish. And outside of that, again, not really much effort from him. So whenever he's one-on-one with the defender, no surprise that he just sort of dribbles it out of bounds. So yeah, it's another 2 drop points, honestly. I mean, this game was there to be won. We should have won it in the first half. You know, put 2 or 3 in, made it no problem. Instead, we made it difficult for ourselves because we let Brentford back into the match. These players dropped off because they were too lazy to keep that hard press on. And we managed to sneak a late equalizer. That feels like a win, but in reality, it's not. Like, this is a game where we should have won it. Brentford's recent run of form has not been great. You know, their performances haven't been too bad from the few games I've seen outside of the West Ham one. But they're in a pretty bad run of form right now. We should be taking advantage of that. Instead, we don't. Because we don't have that extra little bit to push past. We don't have that extra little bit of grit and desire to push past. And we managed to limp out of here with 1 point. So, yeah, I mean, Europe is basically out of the question at this point. I still fully expect, unless we hit a good run of form before we go face Leicester in the FA Cup, unless we find that extra little bit of desire that we've suddenly had in random matches throughout the season, unless we have that, I fully expect Leicester to knock us out of the FA Cup. And if not, I mean, Man City and Liverpool are both still in it. I would not doubt that one of them knock us out or beat us in the final. So that's, yeah, I know I've said this before. I know I've had my moments where I've looked very pessimistically on the future, and then suddenly we beat Aston Villa in the FA Cup, and then we beat Palace, we draw Man City at home. I'll admit I was very pessimistic going into those 3 matches, and then they turned my thoughts around on it. But ever since turning my thoughts around, it's been pretty poor. So I feel like I need to just keep a pessimistic point of view, and then maybe they'll try to prove me wrong, and if not, well, hey, at least I was expecting it. So that all being said, though, those were my thoughts on today's game. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts of today? What are your thoughts on the upcoming matches? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea reviews, and until next time, I'll talk to y'all later. Peace out.